Krome Cast. Check it out. I'm Sam Major, Commercial Director for Krome Technologies. I'm joined today by my business partner, Mr. Rupert Mills.
Hi Sam.
Good to see you again. Today we're discussing vSphere 7, VMware Plus.
Yeah, vSphere Plus.
Yeah, and the impending acquisition of VMware by Broadcom.
Indeed.
Cool. So let's start on the vSphere 7 Plus piece, etc. It's not new. It's been out a while. We've got
early 2020.
Yeah, a lot of customers on it, but a lot of customers that, for various reasons, pandemic and all sorts of stuff, haven't yet made that jump to upgrade to version 7. Now we've kind of got a line in the sand and a good reason to do so, I suppose, which you want to know better than I do. I believe it's November this year is...
October this year.
October, thank you. Well, there you go. I'll let you carry on that bit then, because you do know more than I do.
Yeah, October this year, there's it's the end of mainstream support and the end of extended support, or whatever VMware term it as, November next year. So if you want to be moving yourself up to that's for vSphere 6.7.
Yeah.
So if you want to be getting yourself up to vSphere 7, now's the time to be doing it, because you ideally want to keep it in mainstream support. So those people that haven't made the jump, that have been sitting on the old infrastructure because they've been sweating an asset or had lots of other projects to do to catch up on post-COVID, etc. Now's the time to be starting to think about, okay, we need to be moving, and if you're not doing it now, then do it at some point in the next 12 months to get yourself there before the November deadline next year.
Yeah, but ideally that out of mainstream support, there's probably going to be some sort of commercial uplift or something, I imagine.
Yeah, quite possibly.
That can always be a bit chunky, so if you can do it in this window, kind of now's the time, right? So I guess some of the questions that we asked is there some differences between 6.7, which is very, very good, and this now jumped to 7. Be good if you can, I guess, just knife and fork for a couple of those. Yeah,
absolutely. So I would say there's a few things such as patching. So patching is much more straightforward now. They've updated the tooling for doing the patching of vSphere. They've got the new VMware Lifecycle Manager, which replaces VMware Update Manager for patching. So that allows you to patch your estate much more smoothly. They've got better DRS functionality, so moving the resources around to make sure your VMs are running on the right host. It's more VM centric than just trying to get a straight balance across all the hosts. Historically, it was kind of sort of have a level percentage of usage across all the hosts. Now it's actually focusing on, well, this is a high intensity VM, so let's keep that on a server on its own, or less populated server.
We'll actually look at the resource on the server, so know how much RAM and compute and so on, and know the workload to move it to, yeah?
Yeah, that's the idea. It'll look at the resources on the ESXi host and say, actually, these servers should be in these locations. Yeah, because they're a better place for it to be. But try and it might with the new model, it might fill a server with a load of, or a host with a load of quiet servers. Yeah. Even though that will be a high utilization of it, because they're all quite quiet. Yeah. Whereas something that's more intensely used might sit on a host that's less utilized and has less things on it, because it's quite a high CPU,
making more noise.
Yeah, absolutely. A noisy server. So they're doing that. They're basically making it more VM focused than host focused, which is good. Yeah. MFA is a really good one, obviously. Yep. It integrates properly in vSphere 7, so from the perspective of people who want to get into that from a protection for your environment, there's been a lot of talk about ransomware actors targeting ESXi hosts now, because historically they've gone after servers. Now they're going after ESXi hosts and also trying to take out backups and all the rest of it. So
it makes total sense, and obviously we've discussed a fair few times the importance of security on this podcast, but good to see that in there, because it's an imperative nowadays.
Yeah, without a doubt. So that's another important function. Then you've got the vSphere Plus stuff that's coming along that allows you to say, I'm going to take a multitude of VMware environments, and that supports 6, 7 up, but ideally on 7. Allows you to take a multitude of VMware environments and address them through a single pane of glass management. So that's in a way kind of like if you were addressing your Azure, AWS or GCP regions around the globe and saying, right, I've got stuff in Germany, stuff in the UK, stuff in America, stuff in Asia Pac. It allows you to do the same with your VMware environment. So you can take your individual vSphere environment in London, your one in Frankfurt, your one in Australia, your one in Singapore, wherever they may be, and put them all together and manage them through vSphere Plus. So you can move VMs between them, you can patch them all centrally, you can do all of that as well.
Okay, that's quite, and is that, we're talking there about some hyperscalers, so your VMware and AWS or G-Cloud, Azure, etc.
Yeah, so I mean, VMware also with vSphere 7, you've got better integration with VMware in Azure or VMware in AWS. So
Okay.
it's
and can I, let's say I'm quite saturated in the utilisation of AWS, and I'd quite like to move those workloads now to G-Cloud. Can I?
I don't think it'll do that for you.
No, too much to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe an 8.
Yeah, cloud to cloud migration really isn't a VMware thing. I think if you were running, don't quote me on this, but I would guess if you were running VMware in AWS and VMware in Azure, you'd be able to migrate. You'd probably have to bounce through an on-prem VMware environment. But I can't see many clients doing that particular model. I think it's more focused around people who are running VMware on-prem and VMware in Azure or VMware in AWS.
But having that single pane of glass for management and migrations and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the VMware DR functionality that's integrated with AWS now, VMware put a lot of money into investing, or a lot of time and money into investing in getting the VMware AWS DR proposition there. So we've been talking for a while about people not buying their DR environment and having a lot of passive computes out there. Buy your active, don't buy your passive. Put your passive in the cloud somewhere. We can do it in Azure, we can do it in AWS, but that VMware DR functionality is better now. So a whole bunch of upgraded things in there. I do think the vSphere Plus thing will likely be a play around moving to some sort of consumption model in the future as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's the subscription model is without a doubt going to be their future, given the bit we'll talk about in a bit. Looking at kind of the application layer, obviously where VMware historically has been host and now applications, so Kubernetes, all that sort of stuff, so improvements there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can run Kubernetes. I should have mentioned that. You can run Kubernetes natively.
That's why I'm here, just to prompt you.
Yeah, thanks. You can run Kubernetes natively inside vSphere 7 now. So again, people wanting to do that model rather than full-blown VMs, it's all fully supported now. So it's another big step forward for people sort of looking at a modern compute environment.
Okay. And then I guess to top some of that out, the upgrade, is it big and scary? Is it things to consider? Is it a next finish?
It's not quite a next finish, but it's not
big scary.
No,
okay.
No. It's checking your compatibility list. It's important as ever. Making sure that whatever you're going to put the environment on will actually run vSphere 7 is a good step. But it's if you've got reasonably modern hardware, it's going to work. And it's not particularly scary upgrade. We can obviously assist with that. We can help move things through. But it's and one more thing I need to mention was the fact that the vCenter is no longer available on Windows. So historically it's been an appliance or on Windows. From vSphere 7, it's appliance only. So if you're particularly wedded to vCenter on Windows, it's not there anymore. It's gone. You'll be running vCenter on an appliance now.
Okay, interesting. That kind of wraps up some good features worth doing. Kind of have to do it if you want to be in support.
Definitely worth doing. Sort of security out, sort of backup out, I think sort of patching out.
All the other stuff, it's great. Your vMotion and so on is better. 6.7 is not particularly bad.
No.
Some really nice to have. And for some people that will be really, really important. For kind of general users, there's a lot of stuff there which could be viewed as nice to have. I think the key thing is that it's going to be out of general support. It's the time to get a shuffle on, right? You've sweated the asset for a bit. It's a good investment.
Yeah, without a doubt.
But you've got to keep it in general support would be my advice, certainly. So there's kind of the reason to speak to your friendly VMware representative and get yourself moved.
Get it moved.
Okay. So then I guess we can move on and talk about the interesting news, which is obviously they have a new owner. Broadcom have put $61 billion on the table for them, which is it's only slightly less than Dell paid for VMware and EMC. I think it was 67 billion. So they've done all right.
I was checking that actually to make sure that there were sort of facts around it. VMware, they got 80% of VMware in that deal.
Wow.
And I think Dell offloaded VMware back into Michael Dell and his partners. I think they made
Silver Lake,
12. Silver Lake, and I think they made 12 billion at that point. But then they're offloading it again now for 61 billion.
Hard life.
Yeah, I think very shrewd business moves by Michael all around.
Yeah, so. I mean, fair enough. And I mean, it's interesting. It was been rumoured for ages that they can do it. So I don't think anyone was surprised that they have a new owner. That wasn't the surprise. But there, you look at the obvious people, and you can discount them straight away. So all the kind of the storage competition, it wasn't going to be a NetApp, a HP, an IBM. No. Couldn't happen, right? So you thin the herd, and you think, it could be an Oracle, but Oracle will just take it and make it a very Oracle-only product and very proprietary and bury it. So that wasn't going to happen. So that leaves a few people that could raise the capital to do it, and actually would make sense. But I didn't think it'd be Broadcom.
Yeah, I mean the acquisitions they've made so far have been sort of, I think there was CA and Symantec, and I think they were 10 and 18 billion or thereabouts.
13 and sub 10, I think. It's in that ballpark, but it's still significant amounts of money, right?
This is five times the size. So,
it's a lot bigger.
It's a big cash play.
Yeah, so they're clearly out there being acquisitive, adding to the portfolio, all that sort of good stuff, right? But, and I guess the reason I'm surprised by it is looking back at the CA acquisition and Symantec acquisition, reading the news, and we're not a CA partner. I'm not casting mud for the sake of it. Or Symantec. Just from what I'm reading and what I'm hearing, is that post acquisition, price went up, and the customer experience, support, etc., went down.
Yeah.
Now that's not great if you're a customer, but if you're a VMware customer looking back, kind of retrospectively, what's happened, and you apply that to your VMware experience. Are we looking at, we said about with vSphere Plus and the subscription model that is definitely coming, there's going to be what is rumoured to be, a 30%-ish hike, because they're talking about they need to make 30% more profit, so to do that, well, a couple of ways. They can hike profits, but as we've seen from some of the stuff they've previously done, they could also rip the guts out of the organisation to achieve cost savings. But then as a VMware, we're a VMware customer as much as we're a reseller, for want of a better expression, of their products. You've got to think, you've just quoted some brilliant stuff that's obviously happened in R&D to come into version 7. Does that mean we start to see the slowdown? There's lots of cool stuff around application integration and so on, around Kubernetes and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, who knows?
Do they slow down?
I think it's going to be, it'll be interesting to see what their long-term strategy is. Their strategy with the other acquisitions, it appears to have been to buy them and then milk them to get their money back. If they do the same with VMware, they could very easily lay off a large portion of the workforce, cut back on the R&D, and just work their way through the customer base.
Keep shareholders very happy.
Yeah, I mean, their revenue, when you look at it, there's various stats around it, sort of 70 to 75% of their revenue comes from their top 600 clients, which is nothing. When you think about how many VMware customers out there in the world there are.
They're
thousands.
They're big, but they're 10 million revenue a year plus customers, aren't they? Something like that.
Yeah, I mean they're huge. I don't know the actual numbers, but it's you're talking 600 customers for 74% of their revenue, I think it is. That leaves them 26% that they're saying, look, these guys are the ones who we're going to move to a subscription model. We're going to try and monetize and just let them run out. We'll see what they do, but it doesn't pay to be one of the people who aren't in that 600, and there's not a lot of space in that 600 for the thousand.
We're not in that 600.
The tens, hundreds, etc. of thousands of people using VMware out there.
No. So it does. Well, we'll see. They could. They've got, obviously their roots are in the chips, in the processors, in the kind of data center fabric world. Silicon, yeah. So it could be that actually the acquisition of, when you look at what VMware have with the, obviously the virtualization of the host and the application and the Cloud Connect and so on, and we've talked about this a lot. Everyone talks about cloud, and we've mentioned the hyperscalers, and I personally, we are seeing a lot of people that are for Azure, for AWS, etc. But we certainly speak to a lot of people that are hybrid. There's still an awful lot of on-prem. I mean, you talk about the data center, for a lot of people that is still, it might be co-load or it might be owned. There's an awful lot of stuff that sits in the data center. So are they kind of locking that up to a certain extent, because it's their fabric, it's their hypervisor, it's the applications, the key thing they're trying to own, whether it's sitting up with a hyperscaler or in them. And you look at the edge, as it's called, which is what we both know as on-prem, right? There's an awful lot of noise back cloud edge. So it goes around the cycle. We've done this before, right? Yeah. So a lot of this stuff is back at the edge, back on-prem. It could be actually a really good acquisition if they're going to do something clever with this software stack they've got, and now VMware.
Yeah, it could be. It certainly could be. I'm intrigued to see what they do with it, because I have a sneaky suspicion you're going to see a lot of people migrating to other hypervisors in the not too distant future. There's a lot of people talking about Hyper-V with a lot more detail at the moment.
Which is very good.
Doing a lot more work with it. It's a very good hypervisor these days.
Yeah.
The open source hypervisors are out there doing more and more, making more and more noise. Proxmox, as an example, is one that's making a lot of noise at the moment. That's getting its name out there, and there's a lot of people already talking about what happens when we don't run VMware. Now,
it's
I think
that's a
big
big shift for some people, though, right?
It's a big shift, yeah. And it won't be a possible shift for some people because their environments will be so integrated and so automated to run on VMware. So that's where those top 600 are probably very well locked in.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people out there who run what we would term, say, a 3-2-1, where you've got a small VMware environment, three hosts on a piece of storage.
Far easier migration.
Changing that over to Hyper-V or Proxmox or moving it to Azure or moving it to AWS. It seems like a big job, but it's not. It's all infinitely doable. And I think it will be intriguing to see whether or not VMware's change of things. I mean, we had it with Microsoft a few years back where they started changing the rules around whether or not you were licensing a core or a CPU and all the rest of it. Yeah. And everything moves around and everybody gets very jittery and you realise that your workloads are portable. You can move your workload between the different platforms, and I think there will be a reticence from people just to allow VMware to come in and, as you say, turn the price up by 30%, etc. So you might, and it's a very real possibility to move now. It might just accelerate things further into the big hyperscalers.
Could do, and I guess that time will tell, as with all these things, and we've seen many acquisitions in this industry.
Yeah.
Over all the years we've done this, and you get the crystal ball at the beginning of it, and you review it 6 months from you, like, oh, it didn't quite go as we'd all guessed. So it could be a fabulous success, and we could look at VMware in a year's time and go, wow, didn't see them doing that with it. That's really cool, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Conversely, we could all be going, everyone's moved to something else or somewhere, somewhere down the middle. Who knows?
Yeah, it's going to take time to play out, but it will just be. If it was me right now, I'd be sort of locking myself into a nice bought license for vSphere 7.
Well, you've got to do your upgrade, right? So speak to your VMware people. And see if you can get a nice fixed rate for the next 10 years and lock it in, because it could get reassuringly expensive. It's not cheap. It's a good product, but it's not a inexpensive product anyway. It's a big investment for any business of any size or relative. If they do start trying to, squeeze.
It's like your mortgage interest rates. Get a good deal now while they're on the table and lock it in.
Here's the thing. They'll be out there because there'll be a lot of people, the VMware reps, that'll be looking at it going, what does my future hold? What can I close this quarter, this financial year to get done? Etc. So there'll be some good deals out there for people that are willing to go and haggle.
Yeah, I suspect so.
So we should probably get ours done. It's 10 years. I'll get onto it tomorrow. All right. Well, let's run this again in a year's time and see how this has. If it's evolved, how it's landed, what we're seeing people doing. Have we seen the big migration to something known, something new, or actually has it all panned out really well?
If you go back in time, where people looked at when Dell were buying it and said, what's going to happen to VMware? And actually, relatively little. They've carried on doing what they were doing.
Kind of left it alone.
Kind of left it alone, which makes sense because they've then sold it on and done that with it. So it would be interesting to see. I don't think that's Broadcom's model.
That's not. They've already talked, haven't they, about it? It's all their whole software stack's going into it as VMware now.
Yeah.
So they're going to really if their plans are to move on in the future, it's very difficult to integrate the whole thing unless they're looking for a much bigger fish down there. I can't see that, but
I think there are many much bigger fishes out there.
No, as I say, it's a lot of money to put in, but they get bigger and bigger every year. So anyway, let's put a pin in it until next year. Thank you for your time. It's always interesting.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Cool. And thank you for joining us on this episode of Krome Cast. Check it out. Remember to like, subscribe, comment and share. And if there's anything you'd like us to cover in future episodes, then please do leave it in the comments below. Remember, join us again, Krome Cast. Take it out.